right, guys, full disclosure, this was the original opening for the podcast this week, and it went a little longer than I wanted and got a little off topic a bit, but I think it's a very interesting Joshi discussion. We discuss Assemble, we being JD from the Red Leaf Retrocast, JPQ, formerly of podcasting fame, and K from the Big Egg Joshi Podcast. And we talk about Assemble, the chances of it succeeding, the best case, worst case scenarios, things like that. So you're going to hear the introduction for the regular podcast, but decided to release it on its own because it went a little longer than I thought, which is good, which is okay. But I didn't want to muck up the other show with such a long introduction. So this will stand alone on its own. So guys, enjoy the chat we had about Assemble and the Joshi scene right now. And thank you for downloading and listening. Follow me in the Joshi Pod, or follow me at the Joshi Pod on Twitter. And again, thank you guys for listening.
If I'm gonna do this, I'll need my news team at my side. News team! Assemble! News team! Assemble!
Ohio gozaimasu, konnichiwa, konbanwa, and welcome to the Joshi Pod. I'm your host, JPQ from beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Whoa. I thought you retired, buddy.
No, I'm just jumping on this show now.
Oh, upgrading, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Guys,
That was planned.
what? How dare you?
That's so planned.
This is a wrestling show. Of course, everything is planned.
It's predetermined.
Ich kann nicht das gebleiben. Du musst... All right, I'll stop.
So I've assembled News Team Assemble. I'm terrible. This is off the rails already. Oh, first off, I want to thank everybody for downloading last week's episode with Aniki, Ryu Mizunami. A lot of positive feedback. Thank you so much for that. And then I also want to say the main event interview this week is Delmi EXO, half of the Sea Stars, and she also had a tour earlier this year with Marvelous. We talk all sorts of things, and she is wonderful. You want to stick around and listen to this, or not this, listen to that. I'm not sure you want to listen to this, depending on the guys we have here on the phone.
Did you ask her how it felt to suplex somebody in the Atlantic Ocean?
I did not.
Ah!
Oh, you failed.
Let me hang up. Let me call her back. Hold on, guys. Well, one last question. I did ask her what her favorite flavor of a Strong Zero was.
I suppose that's... what's the salt content? You gotta ask that next. She is the Sea Star, after all.
Salt water was brought up on the conversation, though.
Ah, well.
You have to listen and find out.
Yeah. I tip my sake glass to you. Sake. I will not say sake. This is a horrible incident.
You just
hurt my life now.
And it's recorded. Nice.
Yeah. Forever. So I've assembled the team, pun intended, to discuss the big press conference last night where several Joshi promotions are getting together to save Joshi wrestling by assembling and putting on super shows, collaboration between several companies. We'll get into each of the companies here in a bit. But JPQ, let's start with you. Oh, you guys want to introduce yourselves first? I'm such a wonderful host. JPQ, introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm JPQ. I am a Big Paws on a Pop on Twitter, and I'm retired. What's up, dude?
Retired.
That's what he says.
That's funny. Who wants to introduce himself next?
Go ahead, Kay.
Oh, okay,
I'll allow myself to be the greatest one last.
I see. I'm Kay from the Big Egg Joshi Podcast. Twitter is K20. I'm, not retired, I guess. Currently active.
It's good. RET dot.
Good God.
Finally, go ahead.
All right. I am JD from the Red Leaf Retrocast. You have...
All right, guys, let's
obviously
talk the assembled... Oh, what?
I will not stand for this cutoff. No, I will plug it all. Look, you have been a guest. JPQ's been a guest. K is, I guess, a regular
at this
host
point,
now
right?
at this point. He has put it upon himself to be a part of the All Japan Women's Classics journey that we are going through on the Red Leaf Retrocast, because we do retro wrestling, not just the modern stuff, not just the stuff you see every day, every weekend, every month of the year. We do the All Japan Women. We are almost in the 90s. We are seeing the rise of Bull Nakano. We have seen her 3 most perfect forms. I'm sure there will be a 4th and a 5th. We haven't even gotten to the cage matches.
We haven't got to our
Get
final
ready.
form yet.
We haven't gotten to our final form. It's like Frieza. There's an anime reference. Yes, Red Leaf Retrocast also does anime. There you go. Do a lot of things. But Kay is also joining me on the journey of Nitro.
What
Or
about
Bastard.
Raven? What about Raven?
What was Sandman's name there?
We haven't even gotten to him yet.
Okay,
No,
good.
we
We have just gotten to the character assassination of Raven. We are ending 1998. That has been a 2.5-year journey of the Red Leaf Retrocast. We're getting into Starcade 98 coming up on the next episode, and that will get us into the Finger Poke of Doom and more heading into 1999. Kay, I hope you're ready for a ride. I hope the listeners are ready for a ride. I hope every Joshi fan is ready for a ride, because we are continuing the Old Japan Women journey, and we are continuing into what do we call this? Small egg journey we're going here with all this this Joshi ensemble we're going here.
Small egg. More like the 8-bit, the half-bit Dream Slam.
Well, I mean, if we're making 90s references while we're at it, are we going 18-bit or 16-bit? Which one's better for what we're seeing here in the Joshi world?
Can we go 8-bit?
I'll go with 8-bit. That's what I think we're going for.
JPQ, do you know what they're talking about?
I'm not sure.
Me neither.
Okay.
Well, I'm not alone.
Okay.
No,
So-
we're not. We got it. This is what you get on the Red Leaf Retrocast.
I'm regretting my decision to have all you guys on right now.
It's too late now.
Seriously second guessing myself.
It's too late.
I mean, we've already decided that the stipulation for this Joshi ensemble that we're getting is the least received promotion has to be delegated to work on Mako's farm for the remainder of 2020.
So Wave.
Well, one would say that was Sendai, but they already put in their work.
Oh, they're still on the farm now. What are you kidding? You joking? They're still there.
All right.
JPQ, I'm lost.
You're not familiar with Sendai's policy of working on the farm during hard times?
Oh, 100%,
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, there you go. So with this ensemble that
times.
we're seeing, the Assemble.
So the Assemble
received
was
promotion.
a press conference yesterday. Speaking of the retrocast of Joshi Wrestling, there was a few of the old guard there at the press conference, and some of the new guard as well. So Seedling, Sendai Girls, OZ, Stardom, Wave, Marvelous, Hearts, Ice Ribbon, and Pure J have all gotten together to put on super shows to save Joshi Wrestling, or to help them out because of the pandemic. I think even before the pandemic, there was some of the companies were struggling quite a bit. JD, what's your initial thought when you saw this being announced?
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised of an Assemble per se, but I'm more interested in two things. I'm interested in the promotions that decided to join in, and then I'm interested in the stipulation of basically the promotions only fight themselves in the matches. There's no cross-promotional matches that I'm aware of from my first impression.
Yeah, not at first. There's not going to be. But like Wave and those kind of companies, Seedling, they all wrestle each other pretty much anyway. But there won't be any Stardom versus Seedling people, I don't think.
No. So
No, you won't get what you want.
Yeah. So since you brought that up, that was my first thing. I was like, okay, no TJPW. That was a big deal. I had to take a second gander to see if Ice Ribbon was in fact there because of the Stardom situation, and then Seedling as well with their history with Stardom.
And Sendai's.
And Sendai with the people involved. And in fact, they are all there, but TJPW is not. So that brings up a number of questions on how we as fans are supposed to look at it and the legends involved. Obviously, to make a totally not a joke, Akira Hokuto is involved. So we got our legend, we got our main woman legend involved. So obviously Mayu Iwatani is going to eat the pin on the show. Surprise main event. I'm okay with this.
Well, yeah, I think anybody taking a loss that's actively wrestling to Akira is a win.
I don't think that's a win, guys.
I mean, we already see this.
You
we
hate
already
legends.
see this monthly
know.
in
Okay.
Diana, so it's all right.
That's Jaguar Yokota, excuse you.
Well,
That's
her career
60-year-old.
was cut short for this dumb rule that used to exist, so she needs to beat everybody to make up for it.
Yes.
You just need to understand the position of her greatness. All right. So, anyways, I digress.
So Kay, my understanding is they're going to have a raffle kind of thing before the show starts to see who gets the main event. What do you think about that?
Well, one, it makes sense. It sort of eliminates the politics because there's a lot of politics involved here. That's why I don't think you'll ever see the cross promotion matches. I mean, you'll see probably the Wave and the Seedlings, but you're never going to see the ones you want. You know, the Ice Ribbons and the Stardoms. Those are the ones we want. We don't want to see, like, was it Yoshiko versus, I don't know, Ryu Mizunami or Yoshiko versus Yumi Oka? Because you can see that on any normal show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the best thing I can sum this up is it's like a sample platter. It's a Joshi sample platter. You kind of get a little bit of everything, and that's it. I don't think this is going to be as big a deal, and I don't think we're going to see any cross-promotional stuff, at least the stuff we want to see.
Well, let me interrupt here right quick with that. So there's an easy solution, I feel, politically to deal with this raffle situation, and it could have garnered more attention than what we've seen, and that is they all could have agreed to a Kurikan show, right? And whomever gets the most attendance and media attention, whether that's social media numbers or whatnot, gets the main event, and then it trickles down from there who gets the most. I could also see why someone like Wave would be like, whoa, we're clearly the worst. We're not going to get the best.
Well, also, Stardom would have that one handedly. I don't think people would.
Not necessarily, because it is Japan.
Sure, but it is Bushiroad's money.
Yeah, I think they would figure out a way to be number one.
My Mary Manji tweets wouldn't put Pure J over the top.
Oh, God.
I don't know about that.
Their footprint's so small.
Man.
But from I would feel from a business perspective that would also gauge where you would lie in the grand scheme against the other promotions you're trying to compete against. Just to take a different perspective on the matter.
I mean, that would be a good way to go about it, but that would also probably be pretty messy too. I feel like Chigusa and Nagai will put this all together. I think we all kind of have realized that, right?
Chigusa, which is weird. Why she isn't pinning Mayu Iwatani in the main event?
Well, it's because she's retired. Remember, she retired.
She's done.
She wrestled again. She retired.
She's retired like JPQ's retired.
Come on. JPQ's retired. He's here. Akira Hokuto's been retired for like 10 years or whatever. I mean, she's pinning Mayu. Why couldn't Chigusa? She's the most popular Joshi of all time.
That's because Chigusa doesn't need to pin Mayu to prove herself. She seems to exist, sort of.
So, JPQ, real quick here, buddy.
Sure.
So not all the promotions are going to be part of the first show.
Right.
Do you think they space out who's part of which shows to keep the Ice Ribbons and Stardoms apart? Or to keep the Seedlings and Stardoms apart and not have them all on the same shows?
Sure. Yeah, I think that for sure. I think really at the end of the day, this is just a way for everybody to kind of share in the spending and the resources to put on shows that fans would want to buy, and they all kind of share the revenue from it. because if they don't do that right now, on top of everything else they're doing, like they need another revenue stream. And this is a good way for a lot of them to do it. So it's not surprising not to see Ice Ribbon or Stardom involved in the first one, because they're just kind of there to bring legitimacy to this thing, as well as the buzz of bringing Akira back. Like, it's a very smart way that they put this together.
Sure.
And it's one of those things where we're going to get a couple of these, and it sucks to say it this way, but we're going to get some of these quote unquote little shows, right? And it's just a way for Wave, and it's a way for Pure J, and it's a way, for all these promotions, Marvelous, to headline and kind of get used to people seeing them on what I'm hoping to see is a more accessible level than what maybe we're accustomed to seeing some of these promotions, especially, some of the harder ones with the subscriptions, where you have to go through certain things. That could be a good thing, even if it's just like a $5 or $10 show. Like, I would be happy to pay for that because it shows me something. And then you build the progressions from there. You bring Stardom in for a main event. You bring Ice Ribbon for a main event, Seedling, and then you try to then begin to shake it up and put them together. And you can build intrigue and interest there longer term if this thing ends up being viable. And that would be really neat. Will it be? Well, I don't know, right? I think it's just a short-term fix to kind of get some, cash flow back into the Joshi promotions that have been hurt since March.
So, JD, do you think how long do you think this will last?
How long do I think this cross-promotional shows will last?
Yeah, how long do you think Assemble will be assembled? My personal thought, I don't think all those 7, 8 promotions, I don't think they're all going to be part of some of them will never be part of any of the shows.
Wave won't be, that's for sure.
Sure.
They're like 4 wrestlers.
But they're gonna pull up. I mean, just politically wise, I think before it even a show even happens, somebody's gonna be gone already.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, if we're talking, as long as the coronavirus is playing a major role in hurting these companies, the smaller promotions will want to try to get their name out there as much as they can.
Correct.
So they'll put their top wrestler out there, and at the same time, play the political game of you do not pin them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that plays the role you got to think of in itself, which whether that works or not, I mean, I could see on the very most, I could see on a positive scale. Let's say now Ishikawa from Ice Ribbon will eat the pin to the Wave champion. That's fine. Put that on a small cross-promotional show. I could see things like that being made.
Well, the problem with that is you would see that on a normal Wave show anyways, or a normal Ice Ribbon show.
Look, I know, which makes it viable for a show like this.
But who wants to see that, though?
Yeah, I don't think anyone really wants to see that.
Well,
That's
it's the advertising. Oh, it's our cross-promotional 8-promotion show, right? And on the undercard, you have this.
Well, I could see like 5 versus 5, and now being one of the 5 and eating a pin and something like that. But
sure, yeah, that's basically what I'm driving at. We even saw some of that on the. Is that going to
move the needle, though?
No, absolutely not. What will move the needle is what we saw in the past with Big Egg Joshi, right? That's what we saw move the needle. What we saw move the needle was big stipulation matches with big stories. That's what we saw in the past with Joshi. This is not what they're going for. They're going for hot-shotting. Will that work in the long term for international fans? Absolutely not. Will it get eyes on the major products? Maybe on a very small scale, maybe. I'm very hesitant to believe it will make any sort of difference. Now, will it bring extra Japanese fans to the product? That I don't know, because I'm not part of that. I live in the United States. I'm very far removed from that. That's the market I think they're hitting. It is how they can get more Japanese fans to be invested in their products to bring them back to the arenas, because of what's happening right now. They're trying to fill out stadiums even at a smaller capacity. We can look at Korakuen Show numbers. We can look at Kobe Samba Halma numbers with Dragon Gate. We can look at any number of promotions in Japan and see they're not totally filling out the capacity that they're allowed to. That's the worry. I think that's why TJPW has opted out, at least for the time being, or even if they were even asked. I'm just speculating on this matter naturally. They think they can draw the same with or without them, right? Seedling, we were talking, JPQK, we were talking, I think, Eric, you were even on the conversation. We were talking they could possibly be closed down. Wave, they could be closed down at any time. They're on their legs.
They really are.
Seedling has garnered a lot of attention since the summer started. There's no doubt about that. That doesn't mean they're still getting the return on attendance and paid customers. That's where this comes into an important play. And I honestly just don't see how they can get that return even doing this unless someone stops playing the political game, which in Joshi's history says no one's going to do that.
No, never. It won't be stopped. It won't be stopped. They'll build. That's why I don't think we're going to get the big cross promotional matches. Like, we might get the rookie getting squashed, but I don't think that moves anybody. I give this thing 4 shows. And I think by the second show, you see Stardom or Ice Ribbon drop out because they just don't see the viability in sticking around.
Yeah, JPQ, what's in it for Stardom?
Nothing. It's just good optics, really. At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's why. I think that's exactly why they came. It's
of
just
course.
optics.
Yeah, for sure. And look, and I would agree that I think it is a short-term type of thing. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't possibility at more. Now, I agree with UK that we're not going to see, if for example, if TJPW came in, like, you're not going to see, Miyu versus Mayu. Like, it's just not, or Miyu versus Momo, right? You're just not going to get that matchup because nobody's going to play with their stars to that degree, right?
No.
But are you insinuating a freaking Up Angel is a star?
I think he's talking about Miyu Yamashita.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
That's good though.
I
Could
gotta
you imagine?
really make sure of
No,
this.
JD,
This is
you were right.
Important information.
Right.
Important information.
I just assumed people knew that my default is Yamashita, but okay.
I never know with you, Mr. Saki fan.
I don't knock Saki Kashima.
So who's gonna squash Saki and from the promotional matches?
Look, I will pay.
They're putting their
anything
jobbers
now
against
to see
the
a
top
Saki.
stars.
That's right. If you put Saki in there, I mean, you could really put her in there against anybody. But
Yoshiko.
no,
I would pay money for that.
I mean, if it's a
Yoshiko's
tight,
That would move the
squasher.
needle.
look, if it gets there,
Yoshiko's
if it gets
a
Saki,
squasher.
if it gets Saki a main event, I'm all about it.
Who says
3 main
anything
events
about
this
main
year?
event? I'm talking like undercard squash angle in the background.
She gets rolled
Commentary's
up
going
in.
on.
That's where
We
you
just
see the seedling
We just see
champion.
a white lightning go across. Bang! Saki Kashima, she's out.
The little pound bar at the top in the bubble. No.
She gets
So-
killed by Saka Hirota.
But I don't see that we're going to see these top stars, right, in this, in the interpromotional side. So, like, you got to take, like, the fantasy booking side of it out, although it's fun. It's going to be more of your mid cards, kind of switching talent, and I think it's a way to pool their talent together for some of these, for the Marvelous and Actress Girls and Sendai and Pure J and all those people, to pool their resources together so that in case there was some type of COVID thing and they needed people for shows and mixing things together, like, I think that this partnership is going to run a little deep. I wouldn't be surprised. Because we're all sitting here talking about certain things that, historically speaking, have never happened before. Okay, well, we're in unprecedented times with regards to, the pandemic and everything that's happening. These cats might be in worse off position than we think they are, and it really is we got to put all our beef to the side, and we all got to work together to make this thing work, because otherwise we're all going away or getting bought up or whatever the case is. And Stardom and Ice Ribbon are just kind of there scouting right now. Why? So back to your point, Eric, why is Stardom in this? The optics is good, but at the same time, they're going to look for the people in there that show promise that they can bring in, maybe start a dojo, maybe do this, maybe do that. But they're going to pick off people that they like if this thing fails, right? So, yeah, there's a little bit of good and there's a little bit of business that is going to be taking place, both with the Ice Ribbons of the world and the Stardoms of the world. And if TJPW and DDT and Noah weren't doing their whole Wrestle Universe thing right now, which I think is really more part of it than anything else, then I think we would see them in here too. But I think they have done the best job of pushing their subscription services together to create one product for a fan that they're not then going to double down and come into something else. Not at least not yet. So, there's that.
Since you mentioned Wrestle Universe, I think it's worth mentioning Gato Move isn't there. Emmy Sakura.
Actress girls.
Everybody hates Emmy.
Neither is actress. Well, apparently Emmy was asked. She answered that on one of her Chaco talks. That she was asked.
Oh wow!
She turned it down.
Well, good for her. Well, she is.
Do you know why she turned it down?
Because she's killing.
I believe the safety of her wrestlers.
Oh,
was the reason she gave. She didn't want to expose them more to COVID, and since Gato Move isn't fully open, she didn't want their first shows open to be with other promotions. She wanted it to be a Gato Move only thing.
Interesting. Since she was previously exposed, that's a very political and safe response, actually.
Exactly. I think
yeah.
Emmy probably handled. So I believe the way she had phrased it was that every promotion was in a Zoom call. So I think it's safe to assume that at the very least TJPW and Actress Girls had somebody in that call, and they both declined. Because I don't see why they wouldn't all at least hear them out or hear Chigusa out. I mean, when Chigusa calls you all, you
take the meeting.
Wait, whoa! Are you kidding me? I mean, come on. If you're Dump Matsumoto, you'd be like, hey. Chigusa, the guy who calls me up, hey, whoa, you gotta buy me a steak first.
I stabbed you before, remember?
89 was a crazy year.
So
wait, 89? She was gone, man. Gotta get your facts straight.
In a group like this, somebody has to be the leader. Somebody has to make the final decision. Will that be the downfall of a group like this, that somebody has to make the final decision?
No, because it's Akira, 100%. And everybody loves Akira.
I don't think Akira Hokuto. I think Akira Hokuto is there as more of a figurehead than anything else. I don't think Hokuto, at least from what I got from how she was presented, I think she's just more of a figurehead sort of thing to sort of spearhead some of it than anything else. Because you don't want to, because Marvelous is involved, you don't want to put Chigusa front and center because that makes Marvelous look like they're the spearhead, right? So I believe Chigusa took the back seat and put Akira there because they're tight, right? So why would you not want to put someone you're tight with in that spot that you trust, right?
Sure.
You also got to remember, Yumika Hota's there. That T-Hearts thing, that's just Hota. There's nobody else in that group. It's just Hota. And, I mean, I guess Hota's ego is big enough where she thinks she's her own promotion, but, that's a different discussion altogether.
Right. She's trying to survive, too,
Yeah, she hasn't got much booking since she's left Actress Girl. She got like 2 right off the bat and then just not anything since then, really.
So, Kay, 6 months from now, where are we at with Assemble?
Well, I think it's done before 6 months. I think when Stardom starts their shows back up, because, well, one, I think when Stardom starts their shows back up again, right, and they start going back in full force, I think they'll use the excuse they don't have time to loan the wrestlers off to it and peace out. I think Ice Ribbon will probably do more of the same, and then I think interest will lose quickly once you lose those two promotions. Because think about it, out of all the promotions they've listed, who are the ones that have the most fan bases? Well, Ice Ribbon and Stardom. So once those two peace out, who do you got left? Sendai Girls? Like, no one's going to see Sendai Girls and Pure J wrestle. They could go see them on any Sendai Girls or Pure J show.
I don't know.
I give it less than 6 months. I don't think it lasts. I don't think it lasts as long as everyone wants it. I give it 4 shows. I think by at least the second or third show, either Ice Ribbon or Stardom are both peace out. And then I think by the 4th show, they just close it all down. This is a very temporary Band-Aid. This is a temporary Band-Aid on a problem that I don't think they could solve just by doing this.
Don't you love that affirmation in his tone?
I know.
Just like, they're done, guys. Come on, are you kidding me?
Listen. When you've done enough research into like all the old Joshi stuff like I have, like to JPQ's point, you brought up that they're in a big situation now. A lot of promotions almost closed. Like we're like on death's door back in the 2000s and refused. Like AJW could have easily worked with another promotion and they refused.
No,
right.
I totally agree.
Different circumstances, bro.
No. I actually agree with Kay's assessment on this. The history does play a role. And I feel in the history of Joshi wrestling, especially with the players today, a lot of them are still there. Mm-hmm. And over the past 20 years, we have yet to see much improvement in collaboration.
We've seen worse stuff, actually.
So I have to agree with Kay history's behind his side with this assessment. Yes, this is something we've seen before, but to an extent of long-term success, longer than a few months, not so much. I have to agree with Kay on this.
I think Jaguar. So I think the biggest example I look at is JD Starr was headed up by Jaguar Yokota. When JD Starr started taking a downturn in the starts of the 2000s, instead of making a deal that was offered to her with AJW and JWP to work together, she turned them both down, pieced out of JD Starr, and left it to somebody else. That's the sort of people we're talking about, and she's still in the business now, right? Hokuto, same thing. Hota, same thing. Like they were in charge at various points of promotions, or at least in a managerial role. And instead of taking the hand to better themselves and keep the promotions alive, they decided to let the promotion sink, peace out, and go somewhere else because they could always go freelance.
So JPQ, what's best case and worst case scenario for Assemble?
Well, I think best case is, I don't know, like once a year, twice a year. You know, once we get out of this and we get back to some type of normalcy or a new normal, and if everybody makes it, I think this could be like a once a year event, annual event that they celebrate. They got through it together, right? That's best case scenario. Worst case, you know, to Kay's point, it's short-term fix, right? And this is probably the most practical. So even the worst case isn't terrible, right? Which is they all can add a revenue stream for a couple months, try to bridge the gap, and you know, see if they can stay afloat. So.
JD, final thoughts on Assemble?
Look, I love the Assemble idea. I always love cross-promotional matches or even shows. I mean, seen it throughout history. I mean, Kay and I we just reviewed New Japan in the 90s against a promotion called Wrestling and Romance with War. You could even harp back to Noah and New Japan during cross-promotional things. So there is a huge benefit to doing cross-promotional angles, cross-promotional shows, cross-promotional matches. Assemble, what we're seeing isn't any of that. It's just we're having a bunch of people from different promotions put on matches on a same show.
It's a sample platter. It's like a sample platter at a restaurant. It's exactly what it is.
Sure.
So
Will it draw?
Okay.
Will it draw temporarily? Sure. Anything in wrestling today draws on a small scale. Long term, really doesn't unless you have a long-term plan. I don't feel like this is a long-term plan here. There you
Okay.
go.
It doesn't feel like it.
Kay, your final thoughts?
So I remember you telling me you wanted a hot take. So I'll give you a hot take.
Hot take.
I think this doesn't last. And to further my point, I think it's okay if a few promotions fold at this point. I think the more that fold, the better the scene will be, because the more wrestlers will be available and the less the fans will be separated and diversed into different promotional groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it, say Wave goes under. Well, those Wave fans might like Sendai Girls, so they'll just go watch Sendai Girls. So that's more people now. They have more free time from watching Wave shows to watch Sendai Girl shows.
From people watching the Monday Night Wars, though, people just quit watching wrestling.
Yes, but I feel like the wrestling culture there and here is two different worlds.
I disagree. I disagree, and there are facts to that, with a lot of data in regards to just in the top 4 promotions that you can argue between New Japan, All Japan, Pro Wrestling, Dragon Gate, and DDT. The fans of all of those 4 do not cross over to each other. They're very separate. The same can be said with WWE fans going to Japan. I'm not so sure the same crossover is there with Joshi fans. And you can even go through that with a lot of podcasts that you see. There aren't a lot of podcasts, Kay, that cover Stardom and also Ice Ribbon.
Yes, but that's in the West, though. So
I know, but I'm saying that also works with any sort of social media. You don't see the same crossover. You can even attribute that to how us in the West with WWE and AEW. The crossover isn't as big as people think. Is there a crossover?
Yes, but
So
it's not a huge difference in the matter.
So what here's the rest of my point out. So there is a bit of a crossover. There's certain promotions that don't cross over. Like Tokyo Joshi Pro does not cross over with anybody else. However, if you look at some of the crowds and even some of the people on social media that follow certain wrestlers, they'll go to wherever that wrestler is.
Yes,
so
there's
same fan of Madeline,
yeah.
right? And so say there's a fan of Madeline. I've seen this a lot with Madeline fans, especially, right? If Diana goes under, they'll just go to Ice Ribbon because that's where she's at right now. So they'll be fans of Ice Ribbon because they like Madeline, and maybe they'll like other wrestlers there too. So the crossover isn't impossible, mainly because the idol focus of Joshi wrestling makes it to where you'll follow your favorite. See, there's a difference between how Joshi's presented for the most part, not every promotion obviously, right, and how the men's wrestling is sort of promoted, right. In Joshi, you want to have your favorite. So wherever your favorite goes, you go. Asuka's the same way, right? The freelancer, she has fans that follow her to every single show she's on. So say wherever she signs, they'll go there, right? Because they want to go see her. They want to support her. They'll buy all of her goods, get all the 2 shots with her and everything. I think the Joshi scene right now has too many promotions to the point where I don't think it's long-term sustainable, even if the COVID didn't happen. I think you would have had, I think Marvelous was hanging on by just Chigusa, bringing fans in, and maybe Takumi to an extent. And that's it, right? That's why you had to have Chigusa in the ring doing a speech halfway through the show on every show in order to keep the fans there, right? I think Wave was always going to fold. Seedling, I think, was on its way up if you look at this year so far. So they might have survived, but there's not every promotion was going to continue on, right? Diana was struggling. Even before all this, when they lost Sari, they lost a huge portion of their already like dwindling audience, right? I think had this not happened, this sort of situation would have happened eventually, right? I think if we have about 4 to 5 promotions, I think the scene will be healthier and money will be better off. Now, it could backfire, right? We saw it in 2000s, right? A bunch of promotions closed. Some of them barely survived, right? But some of them did survive because of that. Ice Ribbon being one of them, Sendai being one of them. I think even Diana was one of them early, right? All those promotions closed. So these ones that were formed early in 2006 and 2007, even Wave, right, were able to get fans to come see them because they wanted to watch Joshi, and they were the only sort of acts in town. I think that's how Ice Ribbon for the longest time survived, was they brought in people that were following Manami from AJW, and when AJW folded, they followed her there to Ice Ribbon.
Yes, the same concept does apply in fandom, even in American sports. Let's put it out there. LeBron James goes from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Miami Heat. That's a very recent example. He goes from one team to another. There are countless large amount of fans that follow a key player of a sport to another team. They don't root for the team anymore. That tribal mentality doesn't play as much as a factor as the regional one, like it used to. I will backtrack my statement and say, yes, Joshi does have that tribal mentality, but it also has that individuality mentality to it. It's a very interesting study people could make on the fandom of Joshi wrestling. Absolutely. Does that inquire to assemble? That remains to be seen how this plays out in the end. Absolutely.
Well, so I think the tribal stuff is more with TJPW and Stardom, right? I think the ones that have been more inclusive and keep them to themselves have formed the tribal mentalities, because I think the fact that you can go see Tsukasa in like Ice Ribbon, and then you can go to like a Wave show and she's there too, right? Leads people to wanting to be like, well, I like this wrestler, but I also like this promotion, but I really like this wrestler too, so I'll just follow her to go see her and watch her here too as well, right? I think there's a lot of that, and I think that's why
that's the keys to making a star, right?
Well, yeah, but I think that's why
I don't want to go see Stone Cold Steve Austin if he's a Hollywood Blonde WCW. I want to see him Stone Cold style on WWF.
Right. But I do think the current sort of situation where all the talent sort of exchanges with one another already has sort of helped cultivate that mindset even more than, with Tokyo Joshi and Stardom, where I don't see a whole lot of crossover elsewhere. with those two promotions. Those are the two that I think have the more insular fan bases that are a fan of the promotion and the wrestlers within the promotion and nothing outside of it.
Or they just haven't discovered other Joshi yet. Like it's it's how they get into Joshi is those two promotions, and then from there, you got to make the jump. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's more like an idol group thing with them. I mean
that's probably that plays a factor into why they're fans, sure. But then from there, it's like the people that want to then like jump into that world. That's when you go find the Ice Ribbons, Diana. And I'm not saying they're all the same. I'm just saying like the accessibility to DDT through DDT Pro and Stardom-World.com are so fan friendly that it's how people put their toe into Joshi every time. It's those two. You know what I mean? That's why you see promotion loyalty more so with those two, and then you see the fans over time begin to migrate out into other stuff. You know what I mean? Because you get bored with promotions.
Here's a really good recent example of this. Julia left Ice Ribbon, right? Controversial leave, right? To Stardom. There were Stardom fans that were Japanese Stardom fans that were willing to accept her because they don't care what happens in the other company. They only care what happens in Stardom.
Right, yeah.
So that mindset exists. Like, they don't care that she...
Well, every mindset exists.
They care what she does in Stardom, right?
You can find anybody to think that way.
There was a lot of them. There was a lot of them. It was the same with Natsumi Maki. When Natsumi Maki left Actress Girls, we don't care what she did over there because we don't watch those people. We only watch Tokyo Joshi Pro. And what you do here is more important to us. But they also won't follow Natsumi to, like, a Sendai show when she went on to wrestle with Sari. There was, like, no TJPW fans there.
But guys, I mean, these are the hardcores we're talking about. For Joshi to be popular or to be sustainable, they need to get the people that aren't Joshi fans right now.
Correct.
I think it's more difficult than it's easy. I think Bushiroad is going to find that out really hard with Stardom, that you can only market them a certain way, but it's not going to bring a ton of people. This is not the 90s or the 80s, right? Women's wrestling.
No, but you can get them to touch like more globally. I mean, that's the thing about accessibility, is that you don't need all the fans in all of one spot, right?
No,
you just need to hit, a global percentage of like 0.0 something, and you can make some money. So, and I think that's what started, and I think Bushiroad will get him there. It's just, man, since Bushiroad got him, it's like one heartbreak after another. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can't. Once they get momentum behind them, maybe something will change. But I can't fault anybody right now. It's just been, bad luck, since Julia.
Right. I'll interrupt you guys on this. That brings up an interesting point, because there was a recent interview by Suzu Suzuki in Ice Ribbon where she was just crowned champion in a major Joshi promotion in Japan, and she's under 20 years old. Okay? This is a big deal for a number of reasons. And Ice Ribbon has tried this once before with Hiragi Kurumi, but I guess it just wasn't the right time for it.
No, she wasn't ready for it.
In terms of Suzu Suzuki and what she stands for and what she said is what stood out to me. She wants to bring not just female fans back, because if you watch old All Japan Women, there was a lot of diversity in the fan base in those stands. And even Stardom is on record with saying, we want to bring female fans back to women's wrestling in Japan. If you look at the stands now, it's a lot of dudes with cameras.
Yeah. There's a few women you can see here and there depending on the show.
Look, you can see a few women in DDT arenas as well, but the point stands. It's a certain demographic, right?
Right.
You want to... Joshi Wrestling really wants to bring not just diversity to their fan base, but they want the women fan base to come back, because that's what made it so popular in the first place, was the Chigusa Nagayos of the world.
That was in the 80s, though. It's like once you get into later AJW, it's a normal audience. Yeah,
it's a lot of dudes. Yeah.
Yes, but what made it the most popular was the women audience. That's what they're trying to hit. So Suzu Suzuki really putting her foot down in the interview and saying, look, I was a junior high kid, and I saw a certain wrestling with Risa Sera, with Deathmatch, with watching these women work the way they do, work like men. And when you really think about it, that's what the 80s was in All Japan Women. They were working like the NWA dudes. They were posting each other. They were working the shoot style. They were working the exact same way, right? It was the same concept of booking. It was the same concept in NWA, not WWF. Not just to make that clear. This was very adamant in her interview, and that really stood out to me. She really and the fact that she's young. She's under 20. That's another thing in the wrestling world. If you look at the average champion in many of the promotions around the world, most of them are over 35 years old. The only promotion right now that's doing under 35 is Dragon Gate, and all of their champions are under 30, as a matter of fact. That's an incredible feat. Okay?
I'm with you.
Yeah, you can't do that with Stardom because Shuri's artist champion and she's over 30.
Right. In the terms of Joshi, they skew younger because the wrestlers don't stay as long. There's a different adamant. That's why there was that's one reason why the 25-year-old rule. Is that the correct age I got there, guys?
Yes.
25.
Yeah. The 25-year-old rule existed. They didn't feel like the women were marketable enough. They had overstayed their welcome. They couldn't book them for, there was a number of reasons. Mostly the marketable part. When you look at the grand scheme of the interview, every point Suzuki made was what a lot of the Joshi wrestling scene is lacking over the last 20 years, besides bad investments.
Right. Well, she wasn't the one to do that, too. Like, Hana in an interview did the same thing.
Yes, Hana said the exact same thing, and she was primed for hardcore success. There is no one on this planet that can tell me different.
Oh, no, she was going to be a megastar.
Mm-hmm.
She was
Hands
a
down,
mega
easy.
star in the making. JPQ, you and I were at that New York show. Kay, I believe you were there, but you didn't see us there. You traitor.
I didn't even know you guys existed.
No excuses.
That's right.
You should have noticed. You should. Yeah. Anyways, her just being there was the presence, right?
No, it was
we all felt it.
Yes,
when there's
crazy.
When there's a wrestler in front of you that has it, you as a fan just know it. And right now, with what I'm feeling with someone like Suzuki and Ice Ribbon, obviously I'm preempting everything. But right now, with the interview, with the words that were said, with the preemption of the past, and what we've seen, this is what the scene needs, is more youth. It's more sustainable youth. And it's not what we've seen before. Assemble could be that. It very well could be. But we need someone to take the initiative in pushing the initiative. If you know what I mean.
I don't think any of them are going to, though. I think it's going to be a very much don't rock the boat mentality.
No. If we're looking at the realistic scene, of course, we've already said that. But if we're looking at the next step and what we want and what's going to push them over the edge, whether that's one promotion over another, someone needs to step up. Be the next Chigusa Nagayo. Be the next Dump Matsumoto. Be the next Bull Nakano. We need those standouts to be those people. It can't be the promotion. It has to be the person. That's why we get in our real sports, the basketballs, the NHLs, our stars, our LeBron James, our Alexander Ovechkins of the world, our Lionel Messis. We need those people to make your division and promotion stand out among the others to be the big deal. Otherwise, it's just a mute cause, and it's just a flat-lined exchange rate rather than our V recovery that we're looking for in terms of economics. There you go.
So,
APQ.
oh,
Go ahead, Kay.
no, I was gonna say, to your point where you said that we need the assemble needs to have more young wrestlers. The sad part is, if you look at every one of those promotions, I believe only Stardom and Ice Ribbon have any good amount of wrestlers under 20 and under. I think Sendai
I would put
has
the
a lot
age
of
at
wrestlers that are
25.
older. Yeah, 25 and under. I think
25
25 and under. Stardom and Ice Ribbon are the only ones that have a good, healthy amount of that talent. The rest of the promotions have none of that. I think Seedling has the one rookie that I believe is 18, and I think the other one's like 20 something.
And that's a huge issue.
It is a very big issue.
Huge issue. We're seeing that in Western wrestling. It's a major issue. The biggest stars in Western women's wrestling in WWE, and we can even put AEW on the market, are over 30.
I'll also point out that I believe it's the mentality of, as Eric over here put it, OZ or Oz Academy, essentially, with Ozaki, with Mayumi Ozaki being the fossil that she is, refusing to put anybody over. I looked at her title reigns, and she didn't even put Shida over. Aja Kong did. She's put nobody over. Not a single young wrestler has ever pinned her. No wrestler under 25 or even 30 has pinned her. That is a huge, huge problem. And I think there's too many of those. I mean, I make the joke that Diana's, main event 60-year-old Jaguar Dakota, but that's a problem, right? When you have 20-year-old, really good, really talented, very charismatic Madeline in your opening act losing to some chick in a rainbow costume, right? It's a problem. It's a very big problem that I think the scene itself won't address ever until those fossils are either in the dirt or can't even move anymore. Like, I know people love Aja Kong, but Aja Kong doesn't need to wrestle anymore. Her place on the cards doesn't need to be there. You can put somebody else there. She can't go anymore, right? She should be in more of an advisory role. Ozaki should be in an advisory role. She should not be in the ring anymore. She can't wrestle without having to make a hardcore match and not put anybody over, right? I think even Meiko Satomura to an extent. Like, I love Meiko, but she needs to sort of step back and let sort of Chihiro take the shine, but she refuses to do that. She refuses to book Chihiro as a major star, always having her lose the belt, and then she refuses to step back. Instead of putting the promotion and her young wrestlers in the front, she puts herself in the front. Instead of making them stars, she feels like she has to be the one in front to make the promotion matter, and I feel like that's a very flawed mindset. Something Chigusa tries not to do, if you pay attention, right? She knows that she has to be there to sort of get the people to come in, but she puts the focus on Takumi, her protege. She puts her in the main events, and she'll just come out and just do like a little comedy routine with Mio Momono or something in like the intermission or something, right? I think Chigusa has the mindset, but I think every other promotion does not. I mean, even Nanae Takahashi, right? Like, we praised her for putting the belt finally on Yoshiko, but like, look how long that took. Nanae didn't need to be the first champion. You could have put it on Arisa Nakajima and sped this process up, but she took forever. She had to put herself over because she felt like she needed to, or she felt like her ego couldn't handle putting over somebody that's in her 20s or younger. That's a big, big problem with the Joshi industry. There's too much ego and too many old fossils with that ego and in positions. Where, I call them old fossils. Screw it. I know they're legends, and I don't mean to really be that disrespectful, but it's a very big problem. And that's why I think if a few of these promotions went away, I feel like the industry as a whole would be better, right? Because you won't see Ice Ribbon snap up Aja Kong, because why would they need Aja Kong on the roster? Why would they need Ozaki on the roster? Who needs Yumika Hota? Nobody. She needs to retire and have the money she has. It's not like she's broke or anything, right? These wrestlers don't need to be where they are. I mean, I made the joke earlier, right? It was Hota thinks she's her own promotion, but that's a problem, right? She thinks she's her own promotion. Why else would she label herself that instead of just being the freelancers, right? It's T-Hearts, it's her, and then Asuka's there representing the freelancers on her own. Asuka, right? The young wrestler is the only one representing under the freelancers banner, whereas Hota, also a freelancer, feels like she has to be her own promotion because her ego can't handle being on the same level as somebody in the 20s. Like, let's just cut to the chase. It's ego. It's not they feel like they need to represent themselves a certain way. It's ego. They don't want to lay down for the younger talent. And that's what killed AJW, or one of the things, right? It's what killed JWP to some extent, and until they got resurrected as Pure J. Pure J's also got the same problem. Like, I love Hanako Nakamura, but Hanako Nakamura is almost 40. They need to have more youth up at the top of the card, or at least at the middle of the card, instead of having their rookies and their young, really good wrestlers be in the opening matches because they refuse to lay down and do the job for the first time in their lives. It's a
All
very
right,
big
Kay.
problem.
JPQ, final thoughts on Assemble.
I'm gonna watch it.
Can we watch is a big question.
I'm sure we can.
It's my show, so I get the final word, guys. So I think there's a bunch of proud women and proud men running these promotions. And I think because there are crazy things going on in this world, never seen before, probably never seen again, I think they're going to try their hardest to yeah, I'm hoping not my lifetime at least. But I think they're going to try their hardest to do what's best for the industry. I think they're going to do the darndest to help each other survive. I don't think they all will, but I think they're all going in with the right reasoning for do it. I don't think it's money for all of them. For some of it is, I'm sure, but I think that what Kay talked about too. There's a lot of egos too, so I think that eventually that's going to be the downfall is the egos. But I think they're all at least going in to start with the right attitude, the right mindset, and let's hope, that because of crazy worldwide things going on right now, that they can set egos aside, they can set everything else aside, and just do their best to help an industry that the one thing they could probably all agree on is they all love wrestling, they all love Joshi wrestling, and they all want it to thrive. So if they have that mindset and stick with it, then Assemble has a chance to be sustainable, I guess. But on the other side, I don't see where the money's coming from for all of them to make enough to make it worth their while. I think it dilutes some things as well. But again, that's me looking at the negative side, the positive side. Let's give it a chance. Let's hope they're all going in with the right attitude and the right mindset. And let's hope that they all succeed. I think we can all agree on that too. We hope it succeeds.
Oh, I want it to.
I mean, I hope it does. I just don't have I just don't think it will because the egos.
Yeah. All right, boys. One more time, JD, where can you find you on social media, buddy?
Hey, Red Leaf Retrocast at Bowling JD. That's where you can find me. You can find the podcast YouTube, Red Leaf Retrocast, easy enough to find. Spotify, Stitcher, all your favorite podcasting outlets. Guys, I've had plenty of sake tonight. Not sake. You shut up, JPQ, as I take it over to you.
Nice. At Big Paws on a Pup on Twitter and chilling. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. Find me at the Big Egg Joshi Podcast. It's on every podcast platform, at least that I know of. And on Twitter at K_TO_Z3R0. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, and this is Eric from the Joshi Pod. Thank you guys for downloading, listening, and stick around for that big main event interview with Delmi XO. It's worth the wait. She's wonderful. And guys, we will talk to you all real soon. Arigatou gozaimasu.